Um, so my name is Elise Stokes. I am the doctoral program coordinator. So I have the Doctor of Philosophy in Social Work, which is our PhD program, and I also have the Doctor of Social Work, our DSW program. Sometimes I may have our director, Lynetta Mathis, come in, or one of our great faculty, Dr. Susan Rama. She also does quite a bit of some extracurriculars within the program as well. I believe this week is extremely busy for everyone, so I think I'm running this solo today, which is fine. I'm capable, and I know you have faith in me, but if you have any questions, have no fear. We'll make time at the end for them. And like I said, you're welcome to put them in the chat as we move along, just in case you don't want to forget anything. So this is our DSW program team. Dr. Lynetta Mathis, if you haven't already gotten a chance to meet her or speak with her, she is the program director. She's also had quite a bit of experience being the director within the practicum office for like BSW, MSSW, that sort of thing. And the DSW program is fairly new. We are actually going to have our first set of graduates this upcoming May. So we're very lucky to have had the program be as successful as it has. We have also had a cohort every year since it's arrived. So that's been really fun as well. Dr. Susan Rama, as I mentioned, she does a lot of additional professional development things within this program. She heads our Synergist seminar, which I will explain a little bit in further detail as we move along in this presentation. And she also teaches quite a few of the classes within the DSW program itself. And then you have me, interim DSW coordinator. I believe I'm going to be officially called just a doctoral coordinator. It hasn't been announced fully, but I've had the program since July. So it's me and you all and PhD people as well. So again, if you ever have questions about either program, just let me know. Some more of our DSW faculty here. Dr. Crystal Collins Camargo. Also, if any of you have previously received your MSSW from Kent, you may already recognize several of these faces. Dr. Chantel Crosby, Dr. Vibhuti Sar has been here since, I don't want to say the end of time, but quite a while. And he used to actually be the director over the PhD program for many years. So you have a lot of seasoned people that come to the Kent School of Social Work and they stay. Dr. Andrew Winters, I think he's been here close to 8 years. Our newest member is probably Dr. Carlin Britzenhofsock. She comes with a lot of experience. Her specialty area is oncology, and she is our endowed oncology chair of psychosocial work. So great faces here. These are also people who you can expect to be on your comprehensive exam committee and then later your capstone committee, which I'll touch on those pieces as well as we move forward. So just a quick program snapshot. Hopefully none of this is a surprise to you all since you registered to be in this session. So the program name, Doctor of Social Work. We're housed in the Kent School of Social Work and Family Science. It is a graduate level program. So December 1st was an early bird deadline. However, it did not get promoted on the website. Typically our websites will have the early bird deadline or general deadline, and then sometimes a later deadline. However, February 1st is listed, and I believe the May 1st deadline is also listed. February 1st is kind of like our early bird version. So there is a benefit to having your materials in earlier. The committee is able to review those things. Just like, for example, we had a few applications in. This week is the last week the university is open, so we're moving into winter break. So with that applicant that turned their stuff in already, we were able to review it and decide if we want to move forward with an interview process. Then we're able to contact you sooner, get that set up. Interviews usually are in late February, and then we kind of adjust from there, just depending on the timeline of who's moving in for additional applicant materials. Overall, 44 credit hours for this particular program. The program focus is notable, leadership development and teaching. There are some DSW programs, if you're kind of looking around and seeing what's best fit for you, there are other DSW programs that have more of a clinical focus. So a part of that makes ours a little bit unique because it is more common to see clinical tracks than there are leadership development and teaching. So this is more if you see yourself potentially teaching in higher education, teaching in leadership, leadership or just growing in a leadership capacity. So if you see yourself being more of a policy practitioner versus maybe a research scholar on that PhD side, that's kind of some of the differences that you'll be looking forward to as far as the curriculum foundation in the DSW program. The duration of the program, it is set to a little under 3 years as far as the curriculum. And I mention this because we have a set schedule. We have a degree mapping, kind of how you would expect of which courses to take in which terms and which semesters and so on and so forth. However, I also feel there should be a disclaimer that sometimes life happens, which can extend your time. So this can be, you know, something came up and you needed to take a leave of absence for a semester, or maybe you had an issue with a course, just different things that kind of happen as life takes over. So sometimes that can be the reason to extend your time, or toward the end, maybe your capstone project didn't quite turn out how you wanted it, and maybe you have to extend a little bit until you get those things right. So just some things to think about. It is set and designed to be 3 years, but things can happen. I also want to mention the tuition rate, $7.52 per credit hour with a graduate program. It is the same whether you are a graduate student in person or online. The resources are slightly different, but we do try and make sure that we have similar resources and accessible resources for online students. Obviously, campus activities and certain things are not always in a hybrid format, but many of them these days are. So these are some additional tools here. The mention of veteran or National Guard, active duty, that rate right there, that would be if you are eligible. And the best way to know would be to assess that with financial aid. I know they have very specific policies underneath some of their credit hour requirements and eligibility when it comes to military or active duty. So that would be the best office to connect with if you think that you might qualify for that lower rate. Our program is 100% online, asynchronous. Now, there are a few synchronous sessions with courses. You can expect maybe 1 or 2 times each semester to actually have that face-to-face virtual with your instructor. And that's just kind of a way for them to kind of keep up with everyone, answer additional questions, just make a time to connect with the students. Professors do have office hours, but having that one mandatory session has been helpful as the program has moved along. But outside of that, everything else is asynchronous. So you're kind of going to have to manage your schedule a little bit on your own to make sure that you're moving through your modules each week and submitting your assignments, participating in discussion forums, and kind of what you would expect. Again, 3-year program is what we hope it to be, continuous enrollment. And when I say continuous enrollment, I'm referring to there's no true pause in like the summer. So you go straight through fall, spring, summer, that kind of thing. You do have university breaks, and we try and make sure to give you all some unique breaks in between. The DSW program does have a unique schedule. So we're at the beginning, right before you begin classes, we make sure to provide you with that schedule. We have what are called special session dates because a lot of your courses are set up as terms. So you take one class per term. You'll have 2 classes each semester. So you take your courses one at a time. So hopefully I have not confused you. So you have one course. I can just say it as term 1, term 2. You have one course in that first 8 weeks, and then you have another course in that second 8 weeks. You don't take them at the same time, but you still have class as a whole for 16 weeks like a normal semester. So we think that that makes it a little bit easier to conceptualize some of the content, and a lot of the courses will build on each other as you move along. But being able to still work, turn in assignments and everything, sometimes it's nicer to be able to just focus on one subject area before moving to the next. We aim to develop scholar practitioners in leadership and teaching. You are going to hear me say leadership and teaching a lot. And so if you're thinking that you want to work in either a government agency, or you want to move up in the position you're already in, or, kind of move into almost like a community changing sort of role. So you have PhD programs, which are very much the science of it, more or less. So you have these research scholars to the side that are providing a lot of this data. And then you, as DSW scholars, get to say, well, here's the data, and this is what we need to do about it to implement some of those new policy changes and different things to that nature. We hope to promote lifelong learning, trauma-informed anti-oppressive practices, our anti-oppressive school here at the Kent School of Social Work and Family Science, theories, methods, and principles of adult learning and of equity, fairness, and justice. Here are some of the goals that we have for you all if you do decide to join our program. So of course, the teaching and learning, you can already see it's all through this page. So I won't read every single word to you, but having models of social service leadership and teaching, we're trying to train you with those models. We're trying to teach you how to analyze and improve on the models of service you already have, because a lot of part of this program is enhancing skills that you already possess. You've already obtained them from just having that postmaster's experience. So we're really honing in on some of those strengths and then giving you additional tools as you move along in the program. So you're going to be able to apply those teaching and learning strategies within instruction. We do have a teaching practicum, which I will touch on in a little bit more in depth, but we are kind of moving you along in that way. So if you've never taught before, that's okay. We will help you. We will show you how to do it, and then we will implement some tools for you to be able to do it on your own as well. We want to educate students for ethical practice in leadership and teaching positions. Obviously, in the realm of social work, we all want to use best practice and we all want to move ethically anyway, at least I hope, and use various modes of scientific inquiry to critically evaluate practices of social service leadership and teaching and learning. So this is the example of the degree map. I actually need to update this just slightly. We have actually eliminated one of these courses, so everything's kind of shifting up, but the same concept is there. So you'll have your two terms. So you can see the fall, you can see 700, 701. So you'll take 700 first for that first 8 weeks, 701 for the second 8 weeks. Same thing when we move into spring, that first 8 weeks, taking 702, and then taking 703 the next 8 weeks. So you can kind of see how everything sort of moves. Now, I will say when you move into the practicum pieces, you will have your practicum that entire semester. So you'll have your two courses in tandem with your practicum, but still only one course at a time, if that makes sense. So your practicum is over the full 16 weeks, but the courses are still one at a time. The other piece is too, when it comes to the teaching practicum, we do assist students with that teaching placement as well. Dominantly, you can look forward to the class being online unless you live local and you would like that in-person opportunity. We can definitely help you there. We've also occasionally had students come in sort of already have a relationship with a school, like maybe they're already adjunct from their postmaster's experience or something to that effect, and they already have a relationship kind of built there. So we try and work with the school as much as possible within our realm of policy. So if that is something that you've been thinking about, that is doable, we would just kind of have to work that out one-on-one on a case-by-case basis. It's never a guarantee, but it's something that we do try and do if it's helpful. The other piece with the leadership practicum, we try to do it at a place of employment where the student may already be working, just because a lot of the content you're going to be learning in your classes anyway, it's going to be on the job applicable content. So with your leadership practicum, we try to propose some sort of case study that you can apply on the job or proposal on the job. And the other piece too with your practicum, we like to have it be a little bit separated from your current role. So those are some pieces there that we try and do to make it a little bit easier just as far as the placements are concerned. So I know I've mentioned a lot of this experiential learning. So we've talked about the leadership practicum. This does take place in year 2, and then the teaching practicum also in year 2. So your capstone project is the piece I haven't really discussed too much yet, but if you have had an opportunity to either have a capstone previously in your master's program, or maybe you've had a thesis, or maybe you've had a smaller dissertation, it's kind of leaning into that direction. So you have your oral presentation where you're kind of explaining everything about your project, and then you have your manuscript component, which could be published eventually if that is something we try to encourage students to do. So you have those two pieces kind of there. So you have your study that you kind of been doing and the explanation of it all and the format of it all deep rooted in that manuscript. You'll also have a capstone committee, so they will assist you as far as instruction on what to do within your capstone project. It's also very thoroughly explained in the handbook, but we do like to have that community support and committee support for you all as you're moving through your project. And you may be thinking, if you have no concept of what a capstone is or a thesis or anything like that, it's really a subject area that you are hopefully passionate about. That's usually what I tell students, even when they come into my PhD program. You want to have a little passion about it, just a smidge to get you through. So that's something that you want to evolve with change most of the time. So whatever you think you might want to be helping society with, or as far as policy, or as far as being a consultant, the idea of social work is making things better. So kind of thinking about the realm that you're most interested in or the population you're most interested in working with or helping, or just in general, just the logistics and legalities of a lot of things going on. And, maybe it's preventing accessibility somewhere, or resources somewhere, thinking of all of those things. And I'm being very vague, but you yourself as a person know what you're interested in and your experience and how that ties in. So those are some things you can just kind of be thinking about when you come in to have an idea of maybe what you'd want to surround your capstone project with. So the difference between DSW and PhD, I only have one slide in here and it is very brief, as you can see. And I do the same thing in the PhD program. I have one slide that's just kind of there just to give a quick snippet of what the differences are. A large part of it is two things in particular. One, what you want to do with the degree, what you kind of see yourself being as far as the end of the road, your career goals, that sort of thing. The other piece is the design of the curriculum. So it's not to say that you would go and get a PhD and you're only going to be able to do research and nothing else, or you're going to go and get a DSW and you're only going to be able to be in leadership roles and nothing else. It's just the foundation of the curriculum are built for those pieces. So we are giving you the tools and the education in the DSW program to be scholarly practitioners. Same thing with PhD. We are giving you the tools and the foundation and the education to be theoretical researchers and do educational practice. So that's just kind of some of the differences between the two in a nutshell. And I think I have a slide coming up that'll show you some of the hot spots or hot pockets if you need just a little bit more narrowing down of what you can do with a DSW. So, and this is not all encompassing. I want to mention that it's not all inclusive. There are many things you can do, but these are just some general hot pockets that we kind of have grouped together and categorized. So faculty or administrator, policy practitioner, human service administrator, nonprofit administrator, community activist, consulting and training. So these are just different ways, and you really just think about it and you're almost on the front lines in some aspect, working with community change. And PhD, you're more, not necessarily in the background, but you kind of are in some sense. You're doing your research, you're doing interviews, you're gathering the data, but then DSW, like I said, you're able to use that data to really forefront change. What it takes to be a successful doctoral student. A lot of these things on here, you're going to be like, Elise, why are you telling us this? Like, I know this. I went to school before. And I say this because it's so easy to just be like, oh, of course I'm gonna read the syllabus, but your life will be busy. You'll think, oh, of course I'll read it. I'll read that when I get to it. Like that's really just how it goes down. So I'm just being honest, having worked with doctoral students for the last few years. Your life will change once you enter a doctoral program. And it doesn't matter if it's asynchronous online, it doesn't matter if it's in person, face to face. You will have an adjustment of life, you'll have an adjustment of schedule. If you are someone who is a caretaker, so you either caretake someone else, or you have children, or you have even if you have pets, that's a whole thing too. It's just a lot to have. If you are committed to certain activities or volunteer work or just other things that you do in your life, you're going to probably have some sort of adjustment. So a lot of times I want people to think about, what do I need to help support me so I can keep those things going? So just things to think about now before you get enrolled into the program and are actually taking classes. I'm not saying it's the end all be all. The first semester is probably your most disliked one, but it's helpful just to think of these things ahead of time. So referring to the syllabus often, as there's always going to be important dates that your professors put in there. As I mentioned before, you do meet with your instructors at least once each term, so they will put those dates in there. It's almost always going to be on a Wednesday evening. So just like giving a heads up is for that particular synchronous time frame, but you'll know the exact date in your syllabus. You're going to know all your assignment deadlines in your syllabus, everything that you would need to know for course content in your syllabus. So just think about things like that and keep that syllabus as your right hand guide. Ask questions. Sounds simple, but I think when we come into this transition of being a professional, you all are already, experienced, and then you come back into being a student, it can be a little challenging sometimes to just ask questions like you used to when you were, in previous grade school or what have you. So don't be afraid to ask questions. We expect it. We know it's there. This is a new journey for you regardless. So it's okay. There is no dumb question. And we get many questions. So have no fear. Ask questions, especially in the sense of you are doing an online program asynchronously. You will have your discussion forums, you will have some office hours that you can attend and things like that. Of course, you can email your instructors, but just make sure if you do have questions to do it, because it's such an independent sense of program. We don't want you to feel lost at any point in time. We want to make sure you're able to progress. Ask for assistance sooner rather than later. So that kind of ties back into that question piece. It also ties into if things start to happen that could interrupt your academic progress. So sometimes that's because of life and things going on with family, or things going on with finances, or things going on in general. Sometimes that's with mental health, sometimes that's with employment, sometimes that's with just the class itself. So if you find yourself needing extra help, or you find yourself needing maybe a solution, definitely come talk to us. We are there to be your counsel, to try and give you options. I once had a doctoral student who had a class issue, and I wanted to provide those options of, well, maybe we can take an incomplete, maybe we can do this, maybe we could do that. And this person actually went ahead and withdrew from the class without even consulting. And then it put her over a year behind. So we try to prevent that. Obviously, we are going to suggest whatever we think is best fit for you, and you can kind of review those options and decide for yourself what's better in that situation. But that's just an example. We do want to try and work with you as best we can so that you're successful. And all we ask for is to give us that opportunity. Communicate with instructors and program staff, kind of leading into some of those top bullets that we already talked about. Start thinking about your thesis or capstone early, which I already mentioned. And choose a topic you're passionate about. So regular study hours, I think that will probably be the harder part to establish right away. And it takes a while to get your rhythm. Don't be discouraged in the first semester, because it's probably going to be your hardest, more than likely, and all because it's new. You're trying to figure out your pace. You're trying to figure out how life fits in, these deadlines that you didn't have before, different things like that. So just give yourself some grace is a huge part of this as well. Plan to focus and study throughout the week. So again, having those regular study hours will help you with that. Build your positive support system, which I mentioned earlier. Eat, rest, exercise. It sounds simple, but we can tell when students are not taking care of themselves, and we want you to. We don't want you to run on fumes, because you won't be able to give your best effort or your best work, and that's detrimental to you as well. Find your study space. I think that is number one, especially for an online program. I recall in COVID, the peak of COVID times, my students had a bit of a hard time finding just a quiet space. They have siblings that are home now, and people that weren't there are there, and that kind of thing. So just kind of being mindful of where you can find your peace. And then of course be flexible, which I kind of associate again with being graceful with yourself. Instructor expectations. So some of this may be surprise, some of it may not be, but I'll just review. Attendance to the orientation. So we do have a bit of a longer orientation than maybe other programs might. I know some programs just do like a day and that's kind of it for them. We do 8 hours over 3 days, a few weeks prior to the start of the course. Part of this is so you can also connect with your cohort. So there are a lot of activities in orientation that relate to the program, that relate to resources and things to know, but also give you opportunity to connect with each other as well. We also provide some self-paced modules. You'll do that before you have the actual August orientation. So the month of July, you'll kind of be able to see some of those things in real time. There'll be some orientation related assignments and things of that nature. And we do want you to actually complete those. It's not an optional thing. We really want you to be as well prepared as possible for when you officially start classes. There is a retreat in year 2. So once you eventually get to year 2, we'll have a different type of set of activities kind of preparing you in a different direction for your second year. There is a weekly course workload of about 12 to 15 hours per week is kind of what you can expect. The program is set up to be part-time, so I think that's kind of fair. Again, still you're working, you have life, you have all these other things, so just be thinking of how you're going to fit in that time to do that extra work, to fit in that study time, that sort of thing. As mentioned, there are 2 to 3 synchronous sessions per course. That's your instructor meeting with you face to face on a Wednesday and having that time with you all. Monthly synchronous synergist seminar. So this is one of our additional professional development tools that we provide. This is led by Dr. Susan Rama. This is one of her creative projects. And so it's a monthly meeting in your second year typically, and it's relating to that leadership practicum that you're going to have. So it provides some additional tools there for you to do over different topics. It's an optional meeting, so you don't have to necessarily attend the synchronous synergist sessions, seminars, but it is encouraged because it is something that could be an additional tool for you when you are working through your leadership practicum. And again, this is going to be something that's provided to you as far as scheduling goes toward the beginning. So that way, you know, this seminar happens at this time. It should not conflict with your courses for as far as the synchronous times that you meet with your instructor. So those 1 to 2 times a semester when you're meeting with your instructor, the synergist seminars should not conflict with them. So that way you're able to go if you would like to. The other piece that we have is DSW Connect. This was initially for third years, but we recently, within the last month, have decided to change it and expand it to all students. So DSW Connect initially was in year 3 to add some additional professional development tools for those that were in their capstone. So year 3, that's pretty much all you're working on. You're just doing your capstone project and you're in candidacy. DSW Connect works on different topics such as your CV and your resume, how to do a job talk, you know, what negotiating salary looks like. So it's kind of things that not only relate to your capstone project, but it's tools that are going to be helpful to brand your professional career, tools that are going to be helpful to market yourself, tools that are going to be helpful when you're ready to go on the job market and you're doing job searches, you're doing interviews, you're doing those different things. So we try and have just different topics that can go over some of that. Some of our guests are Kent alum. Some of our guests are Kent faculty. Some of our guests are a little bit outside of that. So maybe we have students that are interested in consulting once they leave, but then we may have students that are interested in teaching once they leave. So we have a lot of guests around those different areas that share a lot of strengths. So that way, students, no matter where you're at or where you're thinking, you're able to attend those. So these have also been a bit optional as well. They may in the future be mandatory. I don't know. But for right now, we've made them optional and we've made them open to everyone as of the last month. And the reason why is because you may attend them in your first year and your questions are going to be so different from your second year and your third year. And we want that engagement for students to be able to have that conversation and ask those questions to some of our presenters because these are people who have they've already done it. They've already gone through the things. Other expectations, doctoral level writing skills, when initiating communication when personal issues arise, which we also already touched on. I also want to mention that we did start something new, which is called DSW Presents. It's about once a semester where we'll have a special outside guest kind of come in and talk about various topics or pathways or just something similar. But it's kind of made to showcase what else you can do from a leadership perspective. Co-curricular offerings, we've already mentioned leadership practicum, teaching practicum, and the capstone project. I feel like this might be a duplicate slide. And then candidates, if you've looked at the prerequisite information online, cumulative master's GPA of at least a 3.0, completed an MSW or MSSW degree from a CSWE accredited program. I will say too, having post-master's experience is something that we're looking forward to kind of be proactive as far as accreditation. Right now, it is not required for doctoral programs to be accredited. It's they're so usually they're not. It's required for master's level and bachelor's level specifically. However, we are anticipating that this may come about. So we're trying to be ahead of the game. So that is why we require the 3 years of post-master's degree work, because if that does come through and they decide to pilot that effort, it's possible that we could be chosen to be a part of that pilot. So we want to make sure we stay ahead. So that way, if you're someone that comes in, you don't have to worry about whether you met accreditation or not, because we've already kind of moved ahead of it for the DSW program specifically. We also do specifically require that Master's of Social Work or Master's of Science in Social Work degree. PhD is a different program, and we can kind of work a little bit with different types of degrees or similar areas. DSW cannot. So if you do not have an MSSW degree or MSW degree, that would probably prohibit you from being able to enter the program. As far as your current employment, we do ask for folks to be employed in a human service setting of some kind. You can be employed full-time, part-time. It's up to you of what you do in your life. We have also had students ask about, private practice and how that affects practicum and things like that. Those one-off sort of nuances, we always work with students one-on-one, so that way we're able to come up with an alternative solution for their practicum or their leadership or those sorts of pieces. Application requirements, again, you may have already viewed these on our website. We have the application, of course, through the graduate school. We have your application fee, submitting official transcripts from all institutions. If you previously attended U of L, we probably have your transcript for your degree. So those can actually be pulled from us. If it's any other outside institution that we would not already have the transcript for, that's where we would need you to send those official transcripts in. Directly to the graduate school. Submit personal statements of goals for pursuing the DSW degree, current resume or curriculum vitae, 3 letters of recommendation. We would like these recommenders to be individuals familiar with your work and your academic ability and performance, such as supervisors, instructors, things to that nature. If it's a personal person, we do take a look and kind of flag that a little bit. So try and make sure that who you are asking is someone that can really give some relevant information, not only about your skills and your abilities and things like that, but we look at how it's going to tie back into the program as well. Writing sample demonstrating the applicant's writing and analytical ability, and then send all materials to the graduate admissions office. Usually when you're in your graduate portal, your graduate application portal, it will allow you to upload all of these things. So the only thing that should kind of come outside is your official transcript, and then whenever your letters of recommendation flow through. This here is the full application process. So I know I kind of lightly mentioned in the beginning, you have your application process, it gets reviewed by the committee, and then we start to invite folks for interviews that have met criteria. So if you are someone, like I said before, if you're someone who maybe didn't meet the GPA or you don't have the appropriate degree for the program, or if you don't have that full 3 postmaster's experience, those can be things that kind of hinder. We do still look at the full application. So let's say you're someone who you have your MSSW or your MSW, everything else on your application looks good, but you don't have the 3 years postmasters. The committee may actually review and say, we would love to have them, but maybe in another year, so that way you can meet that criteria. So sometimes we'll just kind of save to the side and stay in contact with you. And if you're still interested, when you actually meet that criteria timeline, then we can kind of move into that interview stage for the next year or whatever timeline is appropriate. So after we have interviews and we've kind of seen who all may be best fit for the program and who all feels the program is best fit for them, because that's also important, we'll proceed with an admissions offer, which means you then get referred to the graduate school. The graduate school will notate that you have been requested to be an official student, matriculated, and all of those pieces, and we'll keep up with you from there so that enrollment and registration and all that is a smooth process. So here is some starts and deadlines. If you were in the beginning of this, you know that December 1st is nowhere to be found on any of our websites. So February 1st is our next deadline. There is a later one after that, but we usually won't put that out there unless it's truly needed. So February 1st, we like to be able to give everyone a chance to get all their materials in. The sooner you get your materials in, the sooner you can be reviewed by the committee. So that's kind of the perk of that. Later deadlines are really for like as available basis. So if everyone has gotten in their materials for that February 1st deadline, the committee has pretty much filled all the slots, which, by the way, we take about 20 folks each cohort. So about 20 students each cohort. So if those are already filled, we may not be able to admit any more after that. And some of that's really program capacity pieces, budget pieces, just different things that flow in. The other piece too is we like our small cohorts, so that way that faculty to student ratio is much better. There are some other larger schools that have larger cohorts, but we really like to give that individual attention to our students as they move through the program. And classes start August 2024. Tuition and scholarship, as I mentioned before, I talked about some of the rates and different things like that. If you do have any questions, the best office to go to is financial aid directly, especially if there's any one-off nuances or anything like that. At this time, there are not scholarships or assistantships for this DSW program, which with university assistantships, it's just kind of a catch-22 a little bit. Assistantships don't allow you to work, but the stipends are they're lower than a normal salary. So it's kind of a give and take a little bit. I will say this, if you are not sure about tuition remission with your employer, definitely ask, because that can be something. Sometimes employers are willing, and you as an employee, you might not even know. So just go back into your benefits as well to see what else is possible for you as you're thinking about how to make this program work for you. Again, we designed it for the working professional, so that way people could continue with their current salary and their current lifestyle. But of course, you're fitting in class part-time, so that can be the challenge there. Student support and services, we do provide Grammarly subscriptions for every single student that we have in our DSW program. Library services, of course. So library services are both in person and online. So if you are in Minneapolis, then you will be able to still get the same services. It'll just be in a virtual capacity. Everyone will still have access to the same databases and journals and all of those things. And anytime you need library support, they do have a chat and they have an online meeting ability as well. And same thing for the Writing Center. The Writing Center also has virtual meetings and appointments. So if there's anything needed, this can be with review of your CV, this can be review with a paper, this can be with review of citation, anything like that. They do work all the way through to the doctoral level. So just be mindful that that's also available for you. Technical help, of course, we do use Blackboard. Some folks may have used Moodle or some other platform in the past, or it may have just been a while. I haven't had Blackboard since like 2012. So these are some pieces, and everything is always changing. Technology is always updating. So if you find that you have any need, then we have a Blackboard help desk specifically for that. And then we also have an IT help desk for other technological needs as you move through the program. This is also a course demo that you all would have the ability to test out on your own, and everyone will get a copy of this presentation as well, so no worries there. But this will allow you to kind of see a little bit of what it might feel like to be in an online program, and with ours specifically, and using Blackboard, and how to submit an assignment and different things like that. Working through the modules in the summer as well, that module piece for orientation, that's self-paced for July, that's also going to be very helpful to you as well. If you have any additional questions, this number here for the DSW program contact is my office, and DSW Kent is our main email listserv. It'll come to me. It's also accessible by Dr. Mathis as well. And then, of course, we have our lovely online learning team if you have additional questions in that realm specifically. If there's ever any questions that the online learning team is not as sure of or something to that nature, we'll always get involved and make sure that you get the correct information. So now I'm going to stop sharing and come back to you all and see if there's any questions that I can answer. Let's see. Post, can it be teaching social work, or it only applies to other social work employment? So with that, the idea is that you have practice experience. So I would think it would go beyond just the teaching. I will double check, but I'm like 90% sure it needs to be practice experience. Is orientation virtual? Nothing is in person at all. Nothing is in person. So everything that you experience will be virtual, majority asynchronous, but we may have occasional synchronous asks of you all, which, like I said, that's only going to be a few times a semester. Other questions? Can you talk more about the leadership practicum? What are the requirements for placement, and how many hours per week? Leadership practicum. Sorry, over here. So as far as the leadership practicum piece, again, I know I mentioned we try to put you in typically at your place of employment. Part of the assignment you will have is creating an organizational, how do I say this? Solution. So let's say that there's a policy or something at your organization, and you're kind of going to be working on a proposal of what you would implement to adjust or make it better or find a solution for. So that's part of it. The other piece too is working outside of your normal role or capacity, preferably in a role that's in more of a different supervisory position than you may already be in. We know some of you may already be supervisors, but it's kind of wanting to lean into what you're hoping for as far as your career ladder goes. As far as hours per week with leadership practicum, I'm actually going to double check this because I don't want to be wrong. And thank you for your patience. But I want to say 8, but I don't want to mistake myself either. I think it's 8, but let me double check and I will get back with you. What is your email address? Thank you. any other questions? And you all can feel free to unmute if you feel comfortable. Or is that all of the questions for today? These are really good questions, by the way. Is there anything anyone is surprised by, or is this pretty good expectation? Okay. Well, we do have 15 minutes if anyone does have additional questions. But if not, I don't want to hold anyone.
How do we get access to the trial course?
It's in that website piece, which you all will be getting a copy of this today's recording, so it'll be in that presentation as well.
Thank you.
See someone else. Alrighty. Well, I thank you all so much for joining me today. DSWKent at Louisville.edu is our main email address. And again, for the person that had asked earlier, as far as that practice experience, it does need to be practice experience. You're using your Masters of Social Work skills to put that into practice. The other piece too is we have that leadership component. So I think it's great if you do already have teaching experience. That's wonderful. But we're hoping that you also have some human service field experience as well. And then Matthew, I will be sure to get a proper answer to your question. And I apologize. This is we have our leadership, and then we have our teaching, and then I get a little frazzled sometimes, and I'm not afraid to admit it. So I will double check that number for you and make sure that's correct. Will we teach a course? Yes, you will. So that's part of your teaching practicum. So the first term of teaching of the semester that you will have your teaching practicum. So teaching practicum is in the spring of your second year. There's 2 terms each semester, so keep that in mind. So the first half of the spring semester, you're observing. So you will already be linked with a faculty person. We are usually the ones to help assign you with that. And then the second part of it is you using that information to apply. So your first part of it is kind of like theory, methods, kind of seeing, how that goes with the particular instructor you're working with. And then the second part of that is that you will help implement some of those pieces yourself. So it's not going to be we just throw you in and we're like, go teach. Be blessed. We're going to let you have that observation period. You're going to be meeting with your instructor about it, kind of like you would have for your practicum supervision at the master's level. You still have that supervision time with them. And then in the next half of the semester, the expectation is that you're going to be implementing some of those teaching pieces yourself. Sort of. The response was like a TA, so sort of in that capacity. And you'll have teaching assignments to go along with that are going to be applicable. So the things that you're learning in the classroom, the goal is that you're going to be ready to apply them within your practicums. And that goes for the leadership practicums as well. So the courses that you are taking in tandem with your practicum, they are supposed to go together to make some of those course concepts easy for you to kind of see as you're applying them in the workspace, as you're applying them in the classroom, those sorts of pieces. Any other questions? Okay, thought I saw someone typing, but perhaps I did not. No rush, I'll still wait just in case. Six to 8 hours on the practicum. So I was not wrong per week. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if you all think of any questions, my name is Elise Stokes. I won't hold you. Happy to linger, but won't hold you. So, and Matthew, hopefully you heard me on the practicum piece, but let me know if there are any other questions that you have. If you think of some later, which you probably will, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.